Welcome, Star Wars fans. Here we talk about all things Star Wars with rumors, facts, news, and random shenanigans. Get ready and strap into your Millennium Falcon. This is the Force Choke Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 69 of the Force Choke Podcast.
Nice.
We're via Skype with, who do we got over here?
Micah.
And I'm Tim. This is Tim.
All right, thanks, guys. It's going to be an interesting episode today. We're going to be talking about Star Wars Gallery. But before we get into all that, I just want to remind everybody you can subscribe to us wherever you find podcasts, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. I don't know where else, Mike. Help me out here.
Apple Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think are we on the Google thing?
I think on Google, yeah.
It's pretty much the main ones you're going to listen to anyway. But
Yeah.
I mean, definitely iHeartRadio and Apple will probably be the biggest.
Yeah.
Did we ever get on Spotify? We'll figure that out.
Yeah. And I
everyone
think
either uses Apple Podcasts or Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and then Spotify, iHeartRadio. But it's there, so you can hear us.
Yeah, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
In stereo sound.
Also, you can find us on all your social medias if you want clips and other interesting Star Wars news and funny stuff. We also do sticker swaps. We got stickers from our podcast with our logos and other things on there. You don't have to be a podcast to swap stickers with us. As a matter of fact, we have a cosplayer. She's sending us some of her stickers. They should be here in the next couple of days. So we'll put that up on our banner. So when we do events, you'll have your stickers up there showing. Also, if you do sticker swaps with us, I did a little something kind of cool with my artwork. I did a couple of art prints. So we'll send some art prints to you for my original artwork, along with some stickers. So you will get one of these. We also have some T-shirts that we might do randomized.
Yes.
So
hey, that's a new one.
Just thanks, Tim. Just some interesting stuff to do there with our listeners and viewers. You know what I mean? And all it'll cost you is a sticker if you want to get some free stuff from the Force Choke Podcast. But you guys ready to get into how we felt and what we thought about Star Wars Gallery, talking about behind the scenes of The Mandalorian?
Definitely.
Excellent. All right, Tim, you ready?
I'm ready.
He's ready. All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was the first thing right out of the gate, Jon Favreau was loving Star Wars was a prerequisite to directing in The Mandalorian. What did you guys think about that when he said that? We'll start with Tim.
I think he was referring to the rest of the directors, probably not himself. I think he is just a regular fan in general. Mm-hmm. Based off of what I've been seeing in the gallery. Not to say like he hates, like he's against Star Wars or whatever, but you can tell he obviously loves Star Wars. Just probably just not as much as the others did. I think he's just naturally gifted with what he does with his movies. That they put him on board to lead these directors and hopefully become as great of a director as he's become, and to move on with more of their Star Wars content where they're directing their work much more better. I think Favreau is more of a play on helping the company than actually. Well, he loves Star Wars, and he also makes good movies. I think it was more a business move.
What do you think, Micah?
I mean, I think it's a good thing, an important thing, to be honest with you, because it's one thing to get, an actor, director in there that they might be good in their particular field, but to have a deeper foundation for appreciation, concern, care, and love for what you're doing. You know, it's because it almost brings in that extra level of insurance, if you will, because it's like, okay, I'm doing this project I'm interested in, but I'm not really vested. But most of us, you know, especially a lot of the directors, a lot of the directors, they grew up with Star Wars, with the originals, and having and just really loving this. And then the example I would make would say maybe J.J. Abrams with Episode 7. He's a Star Wars fan. He wanted to make sure he was doing it right, and he didn't want to screw it up, not just for the whole fan base, but also for
Yeah.
himself as a fan. You know, you want to direct this, you want to make a good product, but you also want to be able to enjoy it and
Yeah.
appreciate it sitting down as an audience member, as a fan. So seeing that that's a prerequisite, I kind of think is important because it brings on that ever extra level of I got, you know, I can't just do this. I can't just do this good. I have to do this great. I have to do the best I possibly can to ensure that I'm not just creating a good show, but I'm creating, you know, continuing the legacy for this just wonderful thing that we've all found, and some of us have created a podcast to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
You know what I picked out of what John Favreau was saying in it. It seems what they did with this whole gallery thing is they said, who can we get on one day just to sit and talk to us, and we'll make it an all day thing, and we'll take the best cuts from all of this and we'll make it into one big thing. I don't think they did this over a couple of weeks or something,
yeah.
but that's just my take on that. But what I did notice, John Favreau seems to be the one heading up this whole gallery thing and the sitting down and talking with everybody. He looked very proud
Hmm.
of the work that everybody did. I thought that was, you could just see that come across in his enthusiasm and in his face. But moving on, so that was John Favreau, who's the head of this. The first director that they talked to or kind of focused on was Dave Filoni. And one of the things that was really interesting was when they talked to him, he looked very, very heartfelt when he said, doing this felt like a continuation of my education, like it was Star Wars school. So, how did that hit you guys? How about you, Micah?
Uh, continuous. Yeah, it's just because I know he started off with other things, obviously, and I don't know if we want to necessarily get into it, but he kind of talked about his story about giving the opportunity for us to sit down and have even having an interview with George Lucas, right?
Yeah, let's get
And
into
he
that because I have that on here too. Yeah, go ahead. Go for
and
it.
he was just and so he's sitting down with Lucas, and at first he thought it was kind of a joke, and then he sat down and talking with him, and it's just again, him, because some of the stuff is like a passion thing, like it's a
Hmm.
job, it's a passion type thing as well, and sitting down and having the opportunity to do this and just I love this thing, and but also in the process of doing it, like it again, I have to bring it back to like you have this extra level of care concern. So in the process of, you know, making a short story or making like for his animations, making movies and stuff, it's he's wanting to do better, and in the process, even with like even the technology, like we've seen so many advances with sound, with them creating things, even CGI through Lucasfilm doing these movies. So it would just seem that the foundation he had before, the foundation, all the things that he's learning from George Lucas being brought into this, and what he's having to move forward with. It's like continuing his education, not just simply on the lore, but how he is as as an artist, as a director, and even furthermore, his progression from animation now to live action.
Yeah.
So
How about you, Tim?
I think he sees himself, having said that, more as a teacher than the learner in Star Wars when he's saying that. You can just tell by what throughout watching Gallery, or at least the first two episodes that I've seen, that his knowledge on Star Wars is pretty vast. He knows so much. I don't want to compare them to the other directors, but I mean, you just what we're given on the show. He just knows so much about Star Wars, that he's there to teach them about it, and you could just It's obvious. I think some of the other directors during the gallery had mentioned a couple of things that Filoni added, like in addition to what they're working with on Star Wars, because he just knows so much about it. And I think that's where they lead up, and they end with uh, Filoni saying that it's like Star Wars school, to him to be working with all of them, and like I said, he's not just a learner, man. He's teaching these guys, and you can just see that passion, like you said, with him growing up and his when he talks about his story growing up. This is like one of his dreams, man, and for it to be happening like this, I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. The way I kind of saw it and the little notes that I had is, to me, it seems like he has the pulse and the heartbeat, and he knows the heartbeat of Star Wars. You know what I mean? And it also seems like when Filoni talks, it's almost like it's George Lucas in a way talking. Like
Dude, yes, man.
he knows what George would say or do
Like
in.
inside his head.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, like he's a clone of George or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
Ironically enough. So I think we can touch base a little bit on that later, but
Yeah.
that's what I got from Dave Filoni. But let's move on. The next director they were talking to was or about also was Deborah Chow, and she said that one of the notes I have is you have to breathe life into the world that you're creating, and make everything feel right to that Star Wars world. So when she was directing, that's what she was wanting to bring to her episodes. Did y'all feel like she accomplished that?
Absolutely.
She worked on the episode she worked on was which one?
She I
Is it
think
the
she did
one where
too.
oh I thought she only did one.
No,
I
she
think
did too.
I think a majority of them did two, and then maybe there's like Favreau did three or Filoni did three or something like that.
Oh, okay.
No, I guess they all did two because you had Favreau, then you had Filoni, then you had Taika Waititi, you had Deborah
Mhm.
Chow. Okay, there might have been some of them that had one in there, but if I remember correctly, didn't she do like episode three?
I think it
I
was
want to
episode
say,
3.
yeah, I want to say it was episode 3. Yeah,
I
Let me
can
see.
I can
that's
bet that
where,
right now. Yeah, let me see.
and I think that's where we meet one of the characters, new characters on that show.
Sorry for the delay, everybody. We're checking.
Is that where the ATs walk into the village to mess
Oh
up some
no,
shit?
I know that one was actually a
Bryce.
the Bryce, yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh, okay, that was Bryce's.
Yeah, because I think I associated Deborah Chow because at the time, I don't know if they're still going forward with it, but they were saying that she was going to be doing Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And I think she did the one, I think it was the one called like, was it The Sin or something? Where when Mando goes to turn in the child and he's like, you know what? No, I'm gonna steal it. I'm gonna steal the child back.
Oh, that's the
I'm pretty
episode
sure
where
that was
he's
her
he's trying
episode.
to get away, right? He's trying to run away with
Yeah.
Baby Yoda,
Yeah. So she did the two that
and
she did were
he
chapter
gets in that big gunfight.
yeah, the sin, and then chapter 7, the reckoning.
See, I was right.
Hmm. So those are the two that she did. And what I kind of liked about her is that everybody seemed like when they talked to her or about her, she had a plan moving forward. We're gonna do this, this, this. We got this many hours to shoot. We're gonna get it all in there. If you have an idea, shoot it out. Let's try it because we only have this amount of time, and we got to get this done. You know what I mean? And even working in that those strict parameters, she was still able to, like she said, breathe life into the world that you're creating and make everything feel right to that Star Wars world.
Yeah.
So I think she really all these directors though really nailed it. You know what I mean? But moving on, we had Rick. Y'all are gonna have to help me with his last name. Famuyiwa.
Femuia.
Famuyiwa. Rick Famuyiwa. What I got from him was that he stood in the awe of the volume of the Sandcrawler, because he said he used to play with them as a kid. And he thought to himself, you know what? I'm actually here. This is what a Sandcrawler actually looked and felt like. You know what I mean? So I think he was just in awe that this world that George Lucas created, he was involved with. You know what I mean? And that he's loved this ever since he was a kid. So that was the one with the Baby Yoda, where we first see his force abilities, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, at the end of the episode when he's fighting the big mudhorn.
Yes, and
and he did episode 6, the prisoner, the one with Bill Burr.
Yes.
Oh, dude, I love that episode.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And how they were the 3 pilots, the 3 X-wing pilots that came in. And
Yeah,
he was one of them. Deborah Chow was one. I think the third was Dave Filoni.
Yeah, it was. You're right. Absolutely. So, John Favreau said that each one of these was like a mini movie, and he likes to hire smart people. And so getting smart people and then having them love Star Wars as a prerequisite seems like this was all like a perfect storm. And I hope we get that for season 2 of The Mandalorian. I mean, it just seems like, man, I don't know, they just put together the right people at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Are y'all nervous at all about that moving forward with The Mandalorian Part 2?
No,
season
no
2?
way at all.
No?
I think it's only going to get better, man.
Cool. So the next director was Bryce Dallas Howard. And she did one episode, which was the one with the ATST.
Sanctuary.
Yes. And the
introduction to Cara Dune. Sorry, I thought that was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that is very important. I mean, I really like her character, just the aesthetic.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? With a tattoo and her armor and just the look of her character. Really, really awesome character.
And
they created.
And she's a surviving member of the planet Alderaan.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Also, so Bryce, she said that the magic act has to work or everything else fails. Kind of like Jurassic Park. If the dinosaurs didn't look real, Jurassic Park probably wouldn't have worked the way it did. And she referenced Jurassic Park a lot, so it sounds like that was a big influence on her growing up. You know what I mean? What do you guys think about that?
If they didn't have Jeff Goldblum, it would have failed.
Oh God damn it! I mean, I think it would have been fine, Tim. I mean, I shudder to think what Jurassic Park would have been without Jeff Goldblum. But no, I mean, she's 100% right. Like, yeah, if you don't buy into the dinosaurs, if you're not afraid of seeing them on television, if you're not afraid to envision what they would look like, having standing in front of you,
mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, and that's part of it. I mean, that's part of watching TV shows, watching cinema, is that sense of transcendentalism, is you're able to completely morph yourself into the situations of the characters and foresee what's happening and what's going on and having that experience with them. That's why it's, even with this show, like, you relate yourself to, maybe one character over the other and you're rooting for them, you're hoping for them and such. And bringing that back to her point, that was a huge thing. And for her, I guess, with Jurassic Park, being that she was also in Jurassic Park World or Jurassic World 1 and 2, and I guess the third one coming up. But I mean, I think she did a great job of that because it was almost like this. Well, even then, because the episode she did, it was like you felt this human connection that Mando had.
Yeah.
Because even at the point towards the end of the episode where you think he's going to take off his mask, knowing his helmet, knowing that he's okay with this simple life,
Mm-hmm.
like a simple farmer's life type thing. I don't know.
No, yeah, I hear you, man. And now that you mentioned that, another thing that Bryce was saying was that there's a real responsibility with the characters because everyone's relationship to the characters matters. And that was a very powerful also, you know what I mean? So they're creating something for us she needs to say this has to look believable, feel believable, and then dedication to the relationship, not just the characters to each other, but the characters to the audience. I thought that was interesting from her point of view. How about you, Tim? What do you think, man?
I if I won't like what I have to say, but in my opinion, we're still talking about that episode, like in her work. I'm not too. I wasn't a big fan of it. I thought it was one of the weaker episodes. I mean, she has the passion for it. She has the right mindset. Otherwise, they wouldn't have chosen her as a director. And I think the show probably would have looked. I mean, probably even better on paper. Like, if I'm reading it or if I'm looking at these images, as a comic, I think it would have been great. But just seeing it on film, maybe they could have made some changes. It started off great, her work with that episode, but then, I just didn't feel, in my opinion, I didn't feel right. Everybody has their take on things, but I just didn't feel right about that episode. I just felt a little off. I don't know if it was.
Do you think that was from the directing point of view or from the writing point of view, like the story itself?
Well, I think for the directing, I think the writing was good. I think that I'm sorry for if all the noise, if y'all can hear all of that noise happening here in my.
You're good, man.
Okay, yeah. It's really loud out there. Anyway, yeah, I think the writing was fine. I just think putting it together to bring it to life on screen was the problem. Maybe it did need a bigger budget. I don't know. I just felt like it was underwhelming of an episode.
You know what's interesting that you say that, Tim, because I do remember at this point in that episode on directing, Jon Favreau kind of he didn't cut Bryce off, but he said, we gave this one to you because we knew it was going to be the hardest one to do, and you didn't have the experience to say we can't do that. That's too much to do in one episode. So she kind of came in, I guess, not prepared to say, no, I'm not going to do this because I know directing and what you're asking us to do, that's going to be freaking impossible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that has
So there you
something
go.
to do.
That's probably what it is. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
And that's why I feel confident about like going forward with these other seasons. I think now that Disney knows that, okay, we got a real winner on our hands. This is Disney Plus's baby. This is our showrunner. We're gonna give them a bigger budget. Let's make this our a big spectacle of a show. So I think should get better from here on out. First season was a little rough around the edges, but it's still a good show. It's still fantastic. I'm just saying it can be better, and I think we're gonna get that.
I don't mean to. I understand what Tim was saying, and to an extent, I agree. It's not one of my favorite episodes. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I think they did it great. I really think that she did it right with the shots and in capturing the emotions that we were supposed to feel. I just think for me personally, this is I guess where my point with Tim differs, is I just kind of feel like that wasn't one of the like you just come off of this high that you get introduced to Mandalorian, right? Then he takes they're like, oh my god, there's the child, the Baby Yoda, and then you turn in Baby Yoda, you steal Baby Yoda, you're taken off, and so after that high, you're kind of had this low period, and I just kind of felt like in the story, it's slower paced, and don't get me wrong, normally you would need a slower pace after that high, but I just kind of felt like since it was a slower pace, it's kind of like. ah, Last episode, dude, this guy is, beasting people out in the streets, shooting up all these damn bounty hunters that are trying to kill him. He's stealing, an iconic figure for Star Wars fans and the imagery of Yoda or Baby Yoda or the child in this case. And I don't know. I just wanted to say that I thought, I think she did a pretty damn good job as far as directing and again capturing those shots. It's just I thought for me, it just kind of seemed like a slower story, a slower point in the story that you have to get through anyway. But again, we do see some great introductions in there, and just wanted to put that out there.
I would
Not to say that you're wrong, Tim, but
no, that's a good take. That's a opposing thought process there. You know what I mean? I just wanted to interject real quick. I'm on IMDb right now for directing credits because that's the episode we're talking about. But I saw that George Lucas had some writing credits for all episodes, and then he had based on characters created by George Lucas for season 2, episode 1, starring Pedro Pascal, Rosario Dawson. So I'm wondering if Ahsoka is going to be in
the first episode.
the first episode.
Wow.
it'll probably if it is, it'll probably be like the last minute. It'd be like, "Who the hell are you?" And she's gonna be like,
yeah,
"I'm Ahsoka."
like the way they ended season 1, episode 1 with the Baby Yoda and fans going crazy over that. This probably the end of episode 1, season 2.
I clicked on all credits for season 2, episode 1. Michael Biehn is in there also from Terminator. He's from the Terminator very first Terminator.
Oh yeah,
Reese.
I remember hearing he was going to be in this.
Oh, we got Reese in this.
He doesn't
bad guy though.
He doesn't have a So Rosario Dawson says Ahsoka Tano, right? And it says Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan.
Yeah, they confirmed that recently.
Yeah. Michael Biehn doesn't have anything as who he's going to be. But it does have Tamara Morrison as Boba Fett.
Yes. Bring him back.
Mm-hmm. So, and we can talk about that a little bit later too. But I just wanted to throw that in there. I thought that was pretty cool. And then the last director that they talked to was Taika Waititi. One of the things that I found interesting that he was talking about is that he said the other directors were arrogant, the quality of the show was abysmal, and he was embarrassed to be involved with this project at all.
I was cracking up when he started with that. I was like, wait, what's going on? And the whole time he's like laughing in the
background. He seems like a character to work with, right? What do you guys think about Takia?
Oh man, I think he's great. He's probably a headache to work with. He's probably just joking around so much, dude.
Respect that.
Yeah. He did, and he worked on the season finale, right? I think the characters. Yes, it was the season finale. Dude, he killed it, man. That his stuff work he did on that last episode. It could have been he got lucky with the writing that they did for the show. Like, wow, this episode is just gonna be fantastic. And he happened to be the one working on it. I don't know if they chose him to, how they went about the selection on that, but For him, he got that last episode, and the way he did those two characters at the beginning, I just can't forget that. Uh, those stormtroopers shooting at the rock and just joking around, like that's just so him to be doing, sort of bringing that comedy into Star Wars, and it's not like heavy, but it works.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, Tim, because one of the other things that Takia Waititi said that kind of jumped out at me, this is him talking about The Mandalorian, the show itself. He said, this show doesn't take itself 100% seriously, but it does believe in itself. And I thought that was really powerful for him to say something like that. I thought that was really cool. I don't know. What do you think, Micah?
I kind of felt like some of the comments he was making was just simply to be silly.
Mhm.
Like I wasn't sure what to believe necessarily because I mean, like he starts off with abysmal cast or abysmal directors and all this stuff, like so obviously he's gonna be joking around. So I don't at some points it's kind of hard to decipher like is he joking? Is that really his interpretation? But let's just say he was truthful with that statement. I mean, 100% believes in yourself. That's really the important thing.
Mhm.
But as far as taking yourself seriously, this is the first ever TV show that the Star Wars have done. It
Mhm.
was going to be their benchmark show, Disney Plus. No one really
Mhm.
knows, what it was, what it's going to be, how well it was going to be received. So it's kind of this thing like, all right, let's do this thing. We can do it, but have fun with it because this might be the only season we get type thing. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what he's kind of, looking at it as. Um, I don't know. I mean, I personally like everything that I've seen with him, and I appreciate his, I guess, personality from what I've seen off camera when he's talking about other movies, and especially talking about his work that he also did with the Mandalorian. Um, I said Mando, not Lando. Get back, dog.
just to give you all a heads up, episode 8, the one that Takia did,
Hmm.
was written by John Favreau. So John wrote it and Takia directed it.
Uh,
Nice.
to my understanding, all the things, well, most of them were written by John Favreau. There's only one that was written by Filoni and another one that was done by someone else. Like looking at this, Favreau did episode 1, 2, 3, 4. Filoni did 5. Episode 6 by Christopher Yost.
Hmm.
7 was Favreau, and then 8 was Favreau. So I mean,
Yeah,
he did majority of the stuff.
yeah.
No,
Does that matter?
I don't mean
No,
to
no,
attack
yeah.
what you said, Lewis. I was like, well, hold on,
Yeah.
let's give him a little bit more credit. He did a lot more than just the final episode now.
Well, no, because I was saying, I know Tim was saying that on what was it, Sanctuary, that maybe, or this last one, that maybe Takia got lucky with the writing. Just
Oh,
kind of, yeah.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
if we look at all the directors and stuff, like I'm not trying to tip the scales at all.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi only did one
Mhm.
episode. I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard only did one episode as well. But look at everything that happened in episode 8, say versus episode 4.
Mhm.
That like this calls for a lot of like moving parts and also a lot of action type scenario. And
Yeah.
he's already done, I mean, Thor Ragnarok for starters, like maybe they felt like this was more of his repertoire to take on a larger task that demanded a nice clean closure. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I would say not that he got lucky with the story, but he got lucky he got that portion, I guess. I mean, so yeah, I guess he got lucky that he got the ending of what we saw of the story, because in that you have these conflicts. You have Moff Gideon. You have a stare down. You have the Mandalorian being unmasked. You have the dark saber. Like a lot of these things could have happened, and you could have probably done subpar, and you're still going to be fascinated with what you see. You
Mhm.
know, but I mean, I still think he did a hell of a job, a wonderful job, and yeah, maybe he got lucky with the story itself, but I thought also too that he knocked it home, because at the end of episode 8, at the end of the season finale of season 1, we're all like, what,
Yes.
more? Oh my God, I mean, the same belief that Tim said earlier, like, I think season 2 is going to be nuts. And especially more so now because they know that not only was this successful, but the reception that it received. And
Yeah.
being that this was, again, their first, like, benchmark as, like, I know I said it's the first TV show, but I mean, like, the first live action TV show.
Yeah.
Because, and again, like, we've talked about animation, different styles of, movies and such. I just feel like Clone Wars was so many episodes for so long, but it feels like this probably more people would be, um, probably more people would come around to a live action 8 episode versus okay, we may have a 24 episode animated season. Now everyone likes animation.
True.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
No,
So
I hear you.
that's why I kind of call it like this is like the first bona fide TV show. That's not to hamper on a Clone Wars. It's just not everyone's gonna watch Clone Wars. Everyone who likes Star Wars will watch probably this.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. And so that about wraps it up for episode 1 directing. You want to go into episode 2 legacy?
Sure.
Or unless y'all wanna chit chat about some other stuff on the first episode.
No, I think we're good with the first episode. I mean, because in part, kind of like what you're saying, it does seem as if they just probably sat down with all these people for X amount of time and they've edited it to making the episode focus, about, the directors. And then the episode 2, Legacy, and episode 3 about the cast. So I think you're right, Lewis, that they probably sat down like almost like in a podcast type style. All right, we're going to talk about this stuff for 4 hours. And then the other groups that they had to talk about, and they're just interweaving this and connecting them.
Yeah.
The focus that they want to bring forward with the
Table
gallery
talk.
episodes. So, but I mean, yeah,
I just uncovered something new also. I don't know if y'all knew this, but I was kind of getting ready. We're going to talk about legacy, and then the third one is kind of the actors. So I went on IMDb and went to the full cast credits. It has Daniel Logan as Boba Fett. Also,
we're at.
Lies.
I went
Lies of the Jedi.
I went to the Mandalorian TV show cast all, and it has everybody on here
Okay, so they actually have him listed as
Boba Fett. Yeah.
for the Mandalorian.
What? Why isn't this all over social media?
Yeah.
What if that's their way of doing it? Maybe Daniel Logan actually. Maybe to
Okay,
so
maybe he's playing Boba Fett, but then the other guy's doing the voice.
That's possible.
Maybe.
That's what I was kind of getting to, but.
And so interesting also is showing Jon Favreau has a acting credit on here as Paz Vizsla. So I wonder if he's going to make a cameo.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Season 2.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to. Because I don't know if y'all knew, and I think it was through... I don't remember what I was watching, but the Heavy... Get down. With the Mandalorian clan that was, there with Mando and the armor, the Heavy is actually from the clan Vizsla.
Ooh. So maybe they're gonna.
Maybe that's him. Maybe they're gonna make him into being that. But I just think that's interesting because with what we see, the Darksaber coming out, Bo-Katan coming out and stuff, I think they said that he was supposed to be like part of the Vizsla clan.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that would be interesting because maybe hopefully we'll actually get some history live action. Seeing that we see the Darksaber, that we know the Darksaber now, maybe we'll get some history of pre-Vizsla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. That'd be really cool, man.
The first Mandalorian Jedi. That'd be kind of nuts, Because I think there's gonna. No.
No, I think that would be awesome.
No. Yes.
No. No, don't get. You're overloading my sensories.
Oh, not too much. IG-11 initiate self-destruct.
Sorry, I put us
Oh,
on a
shut up.
I put us on a tangent there, but I just wanted to throw that in there. I hadn't heard anything about that, so I might take a snapshot of this and
That's gonna
put it
be
out there.
yes.
You know what I mean? And
Oh, it-
hashtag or put
yeah.
Daniel Logan, see if he can
Yeah,
uh,
dude, comment on it.
confirm that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I was
Confirm.
halfway gonna talk about that a second ago, but I just let it go because it's like, damn, that would be kind of cool to be
Yeah.
able to. What?
I don't know. Y'all help me out here. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, go down a little bit. Yeah, we see him right there, Boba Fett.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, well, because that's what I was saying. I was like, damn, it would have been kind of cool to, allow Daniel Logan to play his role,
Yeah.
up. But then I do understand that Tamura Morrison is the face of Jango Fett. Obviously, he's the face of all the Clone Wars because they're clones, obviously, and
Yeah.
Boba Fett more or less is a clone of Jango Fett in himself. You know, um, I get, going the safe route. I mean, I guess who's to say that we don't? That's how they make their distinction, right? Maybe Tim's right. Maybe he's the voice of some of this stuff, because who's to say we probably have to get a lot of flashbacks with
Yeah.
Ahsoka, and then maybe even with Rex. So maybe that's their distinction. Is like we see a flashback, we see Boba Fett maybe as Tamura Morrison, maybe we hear him as the voice, or maybe he even plays Old Man Rex too.
Yeah.
But and to kind of help create the distinction, that we get Daniel Logan as Boba Fett too. I don't know. I mean, that'd be freaking cool. Like, what if we finally, like, with what Disney's done to Boba Fett, he's done nothing now with what the canon version of is. What did
Yeah.
he do? Okay, Darth Vader said no, disintegration, and the bitch flew into the Sarlacc pit. Maybe this is
Maybe we'll
Filoni,
get him
Favreau,
crawling out of
the
the
Sarlacc pit,
Starlight
yeah.
pit. Oh.
Because maybe this is their way of like, okay, we did Boba Fett wrong. Let's
Yeah.
us bring him back from the brink, and we see him just, fuck you, tentacle, and he crawls his way out, and maybe he comes back into the fold somehow.
The
I guess
filibuster. What's his name? Pattinson. Pattinson.
Patton Oswald.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
Patton
Patton
Oswald.
also.
Yeah.
but
and then you get Boba Fett. He's gonna come out of this. No, I'm not finished. I'm not done.
Love hearing that one, man.
I mean, but that'd be pretty wild if we got to see something like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the timeline is right. It's right there.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we see it going to Starlight Pit at the beginning of episode 6, and
Mhm.
Mandalorian is supposed to take place a couple years after the completion of episode 6, Return of the Jedi. So
Yeah.
maybe they just go to Tatooine like, what's this dude crawling out of this weird looking thing?
Yeah.
Oh shit, Mandalorian, help him out.
Yeah, for real, man. That would be really cool. Maybe, and then maybe him and the Mandalorian actually have some altercations, or maybe they work together. I don't know.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, for real, man. All right, well, let's get into episode 2, Legacy. First off the bat, I just want to get y'all's thought process on Kathleen Kennedy's take on the Star Wars Legacy. Micah's shaking his head already. Let's start with Tim, though.
Wow. Okay. Shoot, man. I don't even know what to say. She
I don't know what to
was.
say.
I mean, it was nice to see her at the table. Actually, I was surprised to see her at the table in the first place. I was like, oh wow, she's there. They actually have her there to give her take on the legacy.
Did they let her there, or she showed up?
Oh man, I think she's probably put herself in there. She showed up and was like, all right, I'm gonna
Wait,
let me
what
be
are
part
you
of this.
doing? Oh, I can put my 2 cents in there.
So she's put herself as part of the legacy
Yeah.
in Star Wars, in which she did do a lot, and I have to agree with most of the stuff, I guess, that she's worked on. I mean
Mhm.
that she decided to green light and say yes, we're gonna do the Mandalorian, or let's bring that to life. And then they got all their people together to work on it. So if she didn't, and her, people in that room didn't come up with that, I don't know where we would be. But good on her to be one of the founders of Mandalorian show.
So Tim
but
puts all this good stuff. Kathleen gets the credit. That's what you're saying.
it's hard to say, but she's, I really didn't pay attention too much of what she was saying, so that's why I don't have to. That's why.
So
That's
Tim was watching that.
I just see you doing.
Give me another slice of pizza over here. All I see is this. All I want to do is this.
What's she talking? Okay, I can go to the bathroom real quick. Hold on.
I mean, I feel bad, but about saying that, but that's just how it went. I just didn't really pay attention to what you were saying.
Oh wow, Micah, how about you, man?
I just, I think you're probably right that she was like, yeah, I want to be here. No, I should be here. Hey, I'm your boss. I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
Okay, sit down, crazy old lady. But it just kind of seemed like that reverence that each of the directors had for each other, sitting down there, and the actors that we see later on sitting down there. It didn't seem to me like she had that kind of mutual respect. It was kind of like, hey, I'm the boss here. Because she was cutting into, we cut each other off like it's part of the playful banter. This is a podcast, we're talking about this. But it almost kind of seemed like she was just cutting off to make a point. Because I remember she shut off someone to be like, no, because when I was talking to George, and I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, fine. But I don't know. It just kind of seemed like there was a mild sense of disrespect or lack of, maybe not even disrespect, but a lack of respect that she had for the people, the pushers doing the work and stuff. And again, it's kind of like, how are you going to sit down for a documentary about the Mandalorian behind the scenes, what it took to get there, and again you're going to come out saying the new movies are so hard because there's no source material. Like, what are you doing there? You're an administrator. Go back in the back room, sign the shit that we need you to do to make this movie, and get the flock out of here, man. I don't know.
Go as minister.
It's so funny because it's so reticent with Tim saying, like, she was talking. I wasn't really listening to what she was saying, and I don't know. I just kind of like I respect that. I feel that a little bit, like she's talking, but I'm just like,
I almost wanted at one point, Jon Favreau was talking and he was kind of looking at her at like, yeah. Uh-huh. I almost wanted him to say like, hey honey, can you just go get us all a cup of coffee real quick? I just thought that was funny. But moving on from Kathleen Kennedy, because this legacy thing was pretty cool. And I didn't put who said it, but some of the things in here is that truly the characters are a part of George Lucas, and I think it was Dave Filoni who had said that. I thought that was very profound, because I know George Lucas would have a big old, board of, created characters, and he would either put a check mark or like, we need to change this, we need to change that, we need to change this. And so the characters really are an extension of him, his creativity, and, his style. So did y'all get a feeling of that? And I guess this is the extending of his legacy. And did y'all get that feel in this Mandalorian series?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it was Pedro Pascal, moving on to another thought, that said, the world that they've created, not just the Mandalorian, but Star Wars itself, it reflects the world that we live in. Yeah, there's aliens and there's other characters and there's, different kinds of weapons and, planet killing machines and all kinds of stuff. But at the heart of it, conflict within families, friends, interaction with people, love stories. It really reflects the world that we all live in, and that's why it's relatable. I mean, how do y'all feel about that? Speaking of the legacy of Star Wars.
Tim?
There's a lot to say. I mean, not a lot to say, but like my mind's like blowing up on like what can I say about this? Uh, the family, I don't know. I mean, Star Wars, when people think Star Wars, I think they don't think of family first. I mean, I think they think of uh all the cool shit about like the lightsabers, the Star Destroyers and stuff, the Death Star, all that, all the aesthetics part of Star Wars. They think of that first before they get to family with Luke Skywalker and Anakin. I like the whole take on they did with the twin. The twin. It makes me think of the twin sons, but like the sons, the son and father and son. The whole um father saves the son, and the son saves the father bit.
Yeah, that
I
whole
thought that was pretty.
relationship.
I thought that was pretty cool. With family, and it
That's
just made me
reflected.
think of.
That's reflected in the Mandalorian too, with the Mandalorian saving Din Djarin when he was a kid, and him having a father figure, right, which was a Mandalorian. And then the
Yeah.
same thing is reflected or echoed later on, where the Mandalorian takes on the child as his own son. It seems like is going to happen, right?
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, that does echo. What do you think, Micah?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Moving on.
Well, no, I know. I
Good.
heard.
I
I
like
heard
that
like
answer.
17 different topics, kind of almost.
No,
17 is my
yes,
go-to
no.
number. You talk when he's talking about the family bit.
Yeah, and we can get a little bit more into that because we're gonna cap this one off talking about Dave Filoni and his kind of like thought process, because that's the end of the whole episode. So we can get more into that
Talk about that. Yeah.
in a little bit. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about was everyone has a different view of what makes Star Wars unique to them. What makes it unique to you, Micah?
Wow. Okay, go off with that question. um, I don't know. I kind of feel like it somewhat ties down to what like Filoni was talking about, even towards the end of that second episode. Is that the setting is great, kind of like what Tim was saying. The first thing is like you see this technology, maybe these special effects or whatever, but it is really being able to relate to say a certain character and their progression or whatever. And for me, like I just love the story like of Anakin, and even Filoni brings it up towards the end. Like I feel like I'm kind of going to be going off topic here. I do want to cover it, but this is I just kind of feel like this is going to cater into what you asked me, Lewis. So at the end of episode 2, of this, Filoni's talking about dual fates in the movie episode 1, The Phantom Menace, right? And it's so much more than just this battle, of good versus evil, but this is a battle. This is the fate of Anakin Skywalker, because he doesn't have this father figure. He never had a father. He's never really had a father figure, to speak of. And Qui-Gon Jinn is supposed to be like, in a sense, a savior for him, but a savior, for balance, for the galaxy's sake going forward, is because, when Darth Maul kills him, he's now kind of being brought up under the wing of Obi-Wan as a promise, a promise to him. And then eventually they end up becoming good friends, and they end up becoming, like brothers. But Anakin still never had really that parental figure kind of instilling him into things. This is what you need to do. This is not what you need to do. This is what you need to watch out for. You got to be careful. You got to be mindful of these things. And what Qui-Gon Jinn had to offer to Anakin as more of a balance, you know, being further, you know, we are humans with emotions and everything, and being respectful to that. And so for me, to kind of help me, like Filoni's take on that, just really kind of spoke to my feelings towards that character and himself, you know, of Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, first we know of him as Darth Vader, right? We know of him as this guy just going around, killing, doing whatever he wants to do, you know, the bad guy to the good guy type thing. But that Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker, for that speaking, is so much more than that. And how, for me, like my biggest thing is how, you know, can I relate to these characters? Because at that point, yes, you want the animations, you want the special effects to be good, but you also have to believe in whether he's the protagonist or the antagonist. You have to have like someone to believe in, so you can not only immerse yourself in the story, but to understand what's going on. Why is this such a trial for him? Why is this such a big deal? Him, her, whomever. And for me, that's what really kind of like really turned it on for me, I guess, was, you know, being able to connect with these characters, and how, yeah, they may be in a galaxy far, far away. This might have been a long time ago. This might be with things that we may never have, lightsaber, you know, these and all this stuff. But the core of it is this character development, and then this, you know, what's going on with them. That's the biggest thing that, you know, for me.
Yeah, and that's very well said. How about you, Tim? What
Mm,
makes Star Wars unique to you? I'll give you mine,
that's-
and I'll give you
I would,
I'll give you mine in a nutshell, real quick.
uh,
And I'm just gonna go back to, these characters are a part of George Lucas, and it came out of his brain, right? None of us, any of us, could have come up with a story like this, but the characters themselves, the vision that he had in his mind, literally is what makes Star Wars very unique to anything else, because they came out of his brain, and nobody else has his brain.
yeah.
Maybe Dave Filoni, but nobody else.
You ever, we're always have his Brandon Lewis. You ever seen
That's the
Futurama?
same.
Oh, there you go.
He's gonna be in the
But-
vat just talking to us. Okay, guys, let's stop this.
yeah, right. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, but I would say these characters that George Lucas's creation with these characters are probably the most unique thing. Um,
Wait.
just don't see anything like it, man. I mean, Darth Vader, probably the most unique thing about Star Wars is him, and
Yeah,
and
now that you say that, Tim, I think there was a not a study, but like, I guess, a poll done that I saw in some documentary, that the most recognizable silhouette ever is a silhouette of Darth Vader. Everybody, 100%, everybody knew that was Darth Vader, whereas other silhouettes that they couldn't pick out, but everybody knew what Darth Vader was. So yeah,
that's
absolutely.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was in the Legacy episode, was Star Wars sets a standard of entertainment that's hard to match. I agree with that. You know what I mean? I think a lot of, I guess, movies and trilogies, or um, episodic movies, are actually, I don't want to say stealing, because stealing's kind of harsh, but borrowing many of the, I guess, things you see in Star Wars. You know what? Oh, let's change this into wizards. Oh, let's change this into dinosaurs. Let's change this into,
Yeah.
fill in the blank kind of thing. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Um,
Um,
so they're following that cookie cutter
seriously.
thing. But so, I mean, what do y'all think? Y'all can do yes or no. Y'all can expound on that Star Wars sets a standard of entertainment that's hard to
They
match.
do, man. Like they absolutely do. Because I mean, as you already know, like I'm a big fan of as a gamer, like I'm a big fan of the franchise Final Fantasy, and they do pull
Hmm.
from Star Wars all the time. And
Hmm.
Final Fantasy 12 is Star Wars. Like they taking from the Empire like story. The whole
Yeah.
the whole bit, dude. Like the whole thing is Like if you don't know Star Wars, you're not gonna know that it's Star Wars. I mean, but it is. Like
Yeah.
you play through it. It's just they stole. I don't say they stole from it, but yeah, like they freaking um took from the stuff from the Star Wars and made a freaking game out of it and put a different name.
How about you, Micah?
100%. Because I mean, for starters, it would have to set some kind of standard because created back in the late 70s and still now is one of the most world-renowned, recognizable type things, and that's still being successful to the point where someone bought it off of Lucas himself. He didn't have to sell it. He wanted to see. He didn't want to do it. He didn't even want to do it himself anymore for whatever reason that we want to, defend. But Disney spent so much money buying it from him, and Lucas sold it for it to be continued. Having said that, again, it has to be good enough and successful enough for it to keep going forward. But we just see how it is a standard, as you mentioned many times, that saying it nicely, people have gained great influence from the Star Wars film, whether it's a manner of character development, whether it's a manner of in a sense, like idealizing a particular character and fashioning him into their own story. Like I love, there's a video goes around where I can't think of her name for the second, but the creator of Harry Potter ripped Star Wars. They're like, you have a twin that his stepfather's an asshole, and they're looking for this, and doing this, and blah blah blah, and introduced by that, and like this side by side comparison. It's like, holy shit.
This is Star Wars.
Take this into like the real world, not the space. Take away the lightsabers, give them fucking wands, and make them cast magical spells rather than just moving it with their hands. And holy shit, it's a story, And I mean, even in it, it's so commonplace in today. Like you said, Vader is the most, famous silhouette. But even then, if someone just goes around going, how many people don't know that? How many people don't know the line, I am your father? Like, it's so iconic that it's even mentioned, as like a pop culture type thing. I mean, yes, Disney owns Marvel, but how many times did Peter Parker mention Star Wars just in the newer movies?
Yeah,
it
exactly.
And it wasn't like, wait, what is he talking about? No, everyone knows what it is. And yes, there are some people who don't know Star Wars, but they know what happened. They know the big points of it and just how big it was. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, and I kind of mentioned earlier, like some of these things, and sometimes you'll see it in these bigger sci-fi movies, but when you're creating a story and you don't even have the technology to illustrate that, and you're happening to go, let's just say, outside that scope of, hey, I have the story, I want to tell it. I can't tell the story without increasing, our level of understanding with a certain technology and making it better. You're making this thing completely new just to be able to do that. That says something, because you're not just telling a story, you're revolutionizing now the world. You're happening to build up and develop other facets of culture, technological innovation, just for the story, and it keeps going. It keeps on getting better. You bring in new fans to it and everything, and it's the pinnacle. It's what everyone wants to become.
Absolutely. And going piggybacking off of that, Micah, what you and Tim just said about the legacy of Star Wars, and that it's the entertainment value is hard to match. And I'm pulling this literally from watching the documentary of Legacy, the second episode, that Star Wars is not groundbreaking. It's beyond groundbreaking with the technological advances, things of that nature, sound, special effects. It's also considered on a level modern mythology, right? And at the same time, it's about humanity, even though it's out in space with the aliens and stuff like that. At its core, it's about humanity and family. So, I thought that was really, really poetic.
Absolutely.
How the directors, the cast, and people behind the scenes were talking about what some of the things that make Star Wars special, unique, and hard to match.
I pray to my savior, Anakin Skywalker.
There you go. So the last thing I wanted to talk about Legacy was Dave Filoni's insight that was so soulful that literally nobody interrupted him. there was what all the directors and John Favreau at the table, and they let him talk. I think what was it, like almost 11, 12 minutes uninterrupted, just talking about the story arc from episode 1 all the way to Return of the Jedi. Um, and some of it you brought up, Micah, like Qui-Gon fought for the fate of Anakin,
Mhm.
Duel of Fates, right? Obi-Wan Kenobi was more of a brother figure, not a father figure to Anakin. Star Wars is all about family. The Emperor was self-serving, didn't understand why Anakin wouldn't have killed his son. Anakin finally becomes the father figure he never had to Luke in that very brief moment in Return of the Jedi when he throws the Emperor over the side of the Death Star. Star Wars is an adventure that makes you feel good. Um, and it says that there's a lot of hope, even if terrible things and acts happen, even if you're the one that caused those terrible acts.
Mhm.
So I thought it was very poetic, very soulful. The way that everybody was watching him talk about Star Wars, his thought process on it, his insight, and everybody was kind of just in awe. And John Favreau, after Dave Filoni was talking, he was like, "That's it, we're done," because that's Star Wars right there. Interesting thought about that. Tim and I were talking about this very briefly. I think it was yesterday, the day before. Um, uh, Filoni went all the way up to Return of the Jedi, but didn't include.
Dude, yeah, he's like, and that's Star Wars. That's the Star Wars story. And I was like, wait, he didn't include the He's like, what about that Star Wars story?
The sequels. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Micah?
It's definitely interesting. Because when he was making that speech, was he in front of the other directors? Was he? He was in front of the other directors. I was thinking for a second, like, what if he was in front of Kathleen Kennedy? Like, take that, bitch. I think that kind of goes to, kind of like what you've mentioned, Lewis, and I think Tim's hit on, where it's like this is like George Lucas Jr. and Dave Filoni, right? And that maybe he's looking at it as the scope of maybe I'm not picking apart the sequels. I love the sequels. They're Star Wars movies, of course, and they're an advancement showing that we will be going forward in some capacity.
Mm.
But that maybe he sees that as almost that Star Wars, with that respect, has lost sight of what it was. Being that he is a student of George Lucas and knows what Lucas was thinking, Lucas wanted, what he intended to do, and maybe it's easier for him to describe these things that he sees through episodes 1 through 6 rather than trying to juggle the mind boggle of what we saw with 7, then 8 going this direction, the 9 and 10 going back to this direction.
Yeah.
Lando, get down. But also maybe he's only talking about 1 through 6 because 1 through 6 is directly related, somewhat relatable in the galaxy itself to Mandalorian, because Mandalorian, we only see things that has happened 1 through 6. We don't have any consequences of the new sequel that directly affect episode 6 or that affect Mandalorian. We see the fallout of the Empire. We don't see the fallout of the First Order or the Final Order. You know what I mean? So maybe that's what he's looking at.
How many seasons do you think this is going to go? Or are you hoping?
The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
I don't want to put a number on it because I've seen plenty of people in the past take a good idea and they ring it out much further than it has to be and they destroy the story that they created. I mean, case in point, Lost with J.J. Abrams. It was supposed to only be 3 seasons long. ABC threw so much money at him that he continued it further. And at that point, it eroded the story that he began with because it started doing things that didn't make sense. So having said that, I think I heard a number where they said our story is 6 seasons long. So if they already have it in their mind, all right, I have it 6 seasons long. This is going to be the beginning. This is the end point. This is more or less what's going to happen in season 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If that's the vision they have, I want to see it go that long and no more.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you try to continue on that story in a different setting, but we see what happened to shows when they go beyond the life that they were expected to have, what they need, what they're supposed to have.
You know what
And-
that's called, right? It's called jumping the shark. Have you heard that term before?
I never heard that term
Vaguely
before.
familiar, but no, I
It's
can't say. I
there's
know.
a
Jumping the
actually
shark?
Ron Howard was in Happy Days. Y'all remember that show?
Yeah.
Know the
Okay.
name.
So yeah, I know, right? Mike?
Whatever, Micah.
It's in the
So,
past.
On
Let
Happy
the past
Days,
die. Kill if you have to. Oh, go ahead.
if you're familiar with Happy Days, the actor what's his name? Plays the Fonz. So the Fonz, leather clad on motorcycle.
Hey,
Yeah,
yeah.
hey.
Harry, was
There's
it Harry
a-
Winkle?
Yes, Harry Winkle. There you go. He played the Fonz, and so there's an episode where they go to the beach, and the Fonz is in Bermuda shorts and his leather jacket with his hair slicked back, and he's he's water skiing, right? With his leather jacket and his Bermuda shorts, and there's a shark in the water, and so to avoid the shark, he goes onto a platform and jumps over the shark, as he's water skiing. And this was a horrible episode. The episodes after that were just trash. So if your TV show gets to that point that you're talking about, it's called Jumping the Shark.
Interesting.
Game of Thrones. Jumping the shark.
No, stake in the heart.
What?
Wow.
Even from a fucking Game of Thrones fan? What are you talking about?
I know. They should have done that episode was reversed though. They actually should have done 10 seasons. Should have drawn that shit out.
Okay, fine. The inverse of the Jumping the Shark. Yes, you may have a point
Okay.
there.
There you go.
No, we're gonna do 7 seasons, but you really need to do 10. You can't cram all that. No, 7 seasons. Oh, you son of
Yeah. We need to move
Where's the
on.
eight
We need to
seasons
move
are?
on.
Yes. So the last one which we dropped today, which
No,
was
I meant Game of Thrones needed to move on. Like the directors, not our
Oh.
shows.
Well, we need to move on to
Okay.
the last episode that's come out, because this is an 8-part episodic documentary, dropped today, this morning, which is the 15th of May. It's called The Cast, so it starts off with Pedro Pascal saying the most important aspect to a project like this is the love of the world of Star Wars. So and putting that love into storytelling, so I think putting that all together is just an extension of some of the stuff that we were talking about. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yes.
Excellent.
Tim, your turn.
I have to agree. I agree with Mike.
Yes,
You
and
agree with my yes? That was easy.
that was easy, right?
Next question, though.
Yes, and sometimes you have to take chances. From what Pedro Pascal was saying, what are some of the chances that you see them taking with the Mandalorian? I'll start with Micah first. Do you see them taking? Yeah, like as a creator of this, what was a big chance that they took in this storytelling or cast or crew or whatever you think?
Well, thinking back, really the focus around him, I think, was a big chance because we had heard about they're going to do a story, and I remember talking to Pogo, or all of us talking to Pogo in the episode. It's kind of like, oh, okay, they're going to do a story about the Mandalorian. It's like, because it almost became like this, like not. I mean, obviously this isn't focused around Boba Fett, but we didn't want to see something milked more than what is needed. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see the jumping of the shark from the Mandalorian culture. I
Yeah.
guess. And so I just, because I know people were excited, but it almost seemed as if, it's kind of like, God damn it, are they going to do Boba Fett? They're going to destroy him even further, or this and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it's always kind of hard, I guess, because this being the first, us mentioning this being the first TV show, um, is it going to be good? I think the show in itself really irrelevant of what topic they're going to cover, you know, might have been a big jump, a big chance for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that was my what I was gonna say, as far as taking a big chance, is doing a new
well, I
story
said it
or
first. Oh.
something to add to Star Wars. Like just like any coming out with anything Star Wars to people are gonna compare like it needs to be good. It need to continue on the great storytelling. And that's taking a big chance when they have this big story to tell and new character and putting all this money into it. Let's to start the show and then taking another big chance, putting it on Disney Plus because that's another big deal. Um, all that was a big chance, and they
Yeah.
pulled it off. But they pulled it off, and that was a big risk.
But
It
I mean, if
worked.
if they failed, ugh, if the Mandalorian, like, I mean, we're talking about a big chance, but if this didn't work out, if this did fail, this was their first, again, live action bona fide TV show. This is something that's supposed to be independent of the sequels of the stories. If this didn't
Mhm.
work out, people would have been saying, "Is Star Wars dead?
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Is Star Wars
remember
done with?
before the
Can they
show
not go
happened, it was
forward
like
with this?"
we're like, this is the last kind of I don't know, the last whole.
Straw.
But I want to, yeah, for Star Wars. If it didn't work, none of it was gonna work. Like,
Yeah.
not that none of it was gonna work. Like they were just gonna start losing fans, um, by a large sum.
Man, y'all went really deep there. I was gonna say,
Baby
man,
Yoda.
they took a big chance doing the whole Baby Yoda thing,
I
and
knew. I
then
thought
people.
you were gonna say that too.
I I thought of that too. I really thought of saying that too, but I felt thinking something bigger, just like the whole Star Wars franchise.
Yeah. Well, yeah, y'all did really great there. Y'all exceeded my expectations. All right, podcast done.
Click. I
No.
want to leave that.
you know, what I liked also is that Carl Weathers was talking that when he was reading this, he loved the script, where it was going, where it was headed, and that's one of the big reasons why he chose to be a part of the Mandalorian. Just because the writing and what he was reading and how the story was unfolding. And going back to that, Micah, if this truly is something that is going to be over 6 seasons, and you know, Carl Weathers got to kind of look into that, you know, I think you guys might be really hitting the nail on the head, saying that we're in for a really really fun ride, the rest of the way here.
Because it's like, yeah, when you hear that story, and let's say that it's the 6 seasons, whatever it was, that's not saying, okay, first 2 seasons need to be great, middle 2 seasons can be shit, but then last 2 seasons need to be good. No, no, no. You need a good story. If
Yeah,
that means a season, if that means
Yeah.
2 seasons, if that means 6 seasons, that's wonderful. But you can't just sit there and continue for the sake of continuing.
You think
I
they're
mean,
gonna?
Christ, even Obi-Wan Kenobi went to freaking hide in a goddamn cave for many years because that's what his story dictated.
yeah.
You think they're gonna use Baby Yoda's character kind of like the way they did with Ahsoka and give him that or her? I don't really know if it's what gender,
It's a
but
him. It's a
Yeah, they
him.
it's
said
a
him
him.
somewhere.
Okay,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
is all right. So, uh, give him that kind of character development and watch him grow up to be this young adult or
I think that's gonna be
somewhat.
It's gonna be hard to do because we're gonna have to see many years, many decades, for that matter, pass
Well,
to see
we
it
don't
kind of
know if they
develop.
like if they we don't know if they spurt within the first like 10 years.
That's true. I mean, he
Like
could
the
have like some kind of molting or something like that as well.
Well,
Well, I don't know. We have no idea.
I mean that's a good point, but I just it's been he's 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Still
seems
Goo Gaga.
to me. I know yeah, right. Because it just it's
Yoda
like
became a
I know
master
this
at
isn't
200,
I
right?
know this isn't logical because we're talking. Is it logical for a fictitious creature in a fictitious show? It doesn't make sense that they would still be like baby-esque stage at 50, and then we see true, maturity of the mind and everything. What, at 52? And then it can still be as old as 800 years old. I don't know. I feel like also too they would want to. It's easy for. I mean, we saw what those the two stormtroopers did at the beginning of episode 8. To hit him on the head or whatever, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, we have to, destroy the two actors that played him because you hurt poor
Yeah.
Yoda." It's like, no, because it's as if anything they want to milk that for him
Mm-hmm.
being an infant type thing. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, maybe it's something we see this through the story of Mandalorian season 1 to wherever, and
Yeah.
he comes up as a slightly potentially old. I mean, he will obviously be older, but a slightly more developed creature. And if
Yeah.
they do continue forward with anything else, like if eventually, hopefully, Daisy Ridley does get another story arc with the development that she's had, the progression she's had in the story. Maybe he pops up later on
Yeah.
because seeing as old as Yoda was, like you could bring this character back for everything short of it being killed,
Yeah.
and it'd still be fine. But I don't see a real character development through the life of the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. I can
Short
see
of
a progression, but not maybe to like young adulthood, maybe, but
yeah,
not a full one. Speaking of getting killed, there was a really neat story about Pedro Pascal brought up that he was all donned when they actually showed his face and he had the blood because there was that big explosion and we thought he might die. And the IG-88 was, trying to help him out there. And Pedro Pascal was like, I have been literally in South America on tin roofs shooting stuff. I could slip and fall at any moment. I could fall to my death doing these acting scenes, and I'm supposing for like Narcos or whatever. And he's like, I never got hurt, but he had his makeup on, blood, like he was in a bloodbath, and he got hurt in his trailer, and he walked into a piece of plywood, and they had to rush him to the hospital. And when he got to the hospital, because he had all this blood on his face, they were like, "Oh my God, we got to get him in here!" And so the whole cast was just like kind of like laughing and joking about that. So it was. I thought that was really really interesting, really neat.
yeah, and he got stitches in his nose and shit.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was funny. I'm doing Narcos in the middle of South America, and he got hurt on the Mandalorian by walking into a piece of wood in his trailer.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's wild. It's like, was it
yeah,
98% of the time? I'm okay. I can walk down the street without whatever. The
yeah.
time you don't need whatever protection. Oh shit.
John Favreau was kind of like you had to get stitches. He was like, yeah, I had to get like 7 stitches, man. And John Favreau was just kind of just laughing it off. Oh my gosh, I thought that was some really good interaction there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another thing that I didn't know about the Mandalorian, I knew that there was one stunt double for the Mandalorian, but there's actually 2.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, Brendan Wayne, I think he's the son of John Wayne, if I'm not mistaken.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, I think
I mean, I
so.
guess it kind of makes sense because he said he was more like the weapons expert.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I thought that was really interesting too. That there was 2 stunt doubles for the Mandalorian for different scenes. I thought that was really, really neat. I didn't know that. Did you know that, Tim?
No, no, I had no idea. I didn't know that fact.
Yeah, then the other one was more for the martial arts aspect,
Yeah.
fighting around.
The fighting, yeah, stuff. Absolutely. And then there was a part in here where Gina Carano actually goes on kind of a little tangent about Carl Weathers and him being a superstar.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
and what he brings to the table as an actor and a performer, and what he brings to their cast. I thought that was very heartfelt and really neat. That even he was kind of in awe, like after she
Gee,
finished.
yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh gosh." She even said, like his voice, he's very commanding and a presence. I thought that was really really neat that she took the time to tell him that. You know what I mean? Sometimes we don't. All three of us work together, and I know I'll try to take time out and say like, hey, thanks for everything you do, guys. You know what I mean? Sometimes we forget to do that. We take it for granted. You know what I mean? But she actually took the time to tell him how much he meant to this cast and crew. You know what I mean? I thought that was really special.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just because, like, and I know some of the things that we had heard in some of the interviews she had done
Mm-mm.
before the season came out. It just always, she felt like, because, she didn't start off as an actress, she started off as a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And you could definitely see the reverence that she shared with the directors, with her co-actors, as such, and because it's almost as if, it was like her being humble, but it was almost as if she was acting, not acting, but she felt like, at least what I saw, like for whatever reason, she felt like maybe she didn't belong at the table of someone of Pedro Pascal, someone of Carl Weathers, someone of John Favreau, someone of Dave Filoni, and it's like she's been given this great opportunity,
Yeah,
and that, and she's obviously showing just her humility and appreciation, and in saying those things, and I don't think just saying them obviously, but the true appreciation that she's getting to work with people of this caliber,
yeah,
being she's trying to make a name for herself, in this new venture of
yeah,
acting. Because I never saw the show Haywire that they talked about. I never saw that,
yeah.
but I remember first seeing her, and I think it was Fast and Furious 5, and then obviously her in Deadpool. Like I've seen her before, and I mean, yeah, it seemed like she knew what the hell she was doing. She definitely had that. You could tell she definitely had that, like the fighting
Yeah.
experience that was able to portray with the roles that she had, and it
Mhm.
sounded like they handpicked her for this because of that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
Yeah, it's almost like this character was created with her in mind.
mhm. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
because even Pedro Pascal saw that he wasn't sure if they had talked to her yet, but that a lot of the artist renderings of the costume design and her on set and everything was her essentially.
yes, yeah, exactly. And she was kind of in awe of that. She was like, "Really? I didn't know that." So I thought that was really neat too. Another thing, they talked to Carl Weathers
Oh yeah.
that he was supposed to be in full alien costume as Grief Karga. Did you know that, Tim?
No, no. I mean, in the concept art,
Yeah, with the whole mask, whole alien thing. He was supposed to be an alien. We wouldn't have known it was Carl Weathers unless you said, "Man, that's Carl Weathers' voice."
Yeah.
So he was supposed to be an alien in this.
I just love it, yeah, because the directors were like, man, we can't cover his face with prosthetics or mask or whatever, and even Carl Weathers was like, oh, I know you couldn't.
Yeah, yeah,
He was like, I knew. He
yeah,
was like, oh, you want to do this? Okay, let's see how this plays out. Oh, okay, let's see. Yeah,
yeah,
you're not going to do that. He's like, I know.
yeah, yeah. And John Favreau was like, yeah, he was supposed to be full prosthetics. He was actually only supposed to be in one episode,
Two
right?
episodes.
Was it 2 episodes?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
he was
and
he was supposed to die in that fight in episode 3.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And so man, they just gave him a really great role, and the way that they included him all the way through the end of the season was amazing. So yeah, it's just funny that his swagger, right? Oh, I knew you weren't going to be able to cover my face.
Yeah, shit. And maybe with him still being in there, we'll get a some kind of crazy cameo cast appearance of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right?
under the heavy mask. It's not John Favreau. He's somebody else. Under the heavy
Yeah.
mask, Arnold comes out. Dylan! Sorry, I had to do that again.
Stick around.
But yeah, that's wonderful. It's definitely great that they were able to land someone like Carl Weathers for that role, and seeing his appreciation for it, seeing him continue forward, they completely changed this character's appearance and even the life of this character, because I imagine they might eventually kill him off, but him going to two episodes, him supposed to be finished it off at the end of episode 3, and now he's going to be making it into the second season, potentially further. It's like it's just amazing that you get that opportunity, that both parties want this and it's working out. So
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to that again, I got the show right now going on with captions, and Carl Weathers was like, speaking to the full prosthetics, he's like, you have the name, you got the name there. Why wouldn't you want to see the face? But let's try it anyways. You know what I mean?
it was definitely it's like a swagger that Lando kid. It's like, come on, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, man, this was a fun episode. It felt very like friends just sitting at the table. You know what I mean? The other ones did as well, but it seemed more paced about, okay, we need to talk about this, we need to talk about this, we need to talk about that. But this episode seemed more like, a couple of buddies sitting at the table, and just talking about, what their thought process was about each other, which I thought it was really cool.
Shooting the proverbial shit.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But what else we got here? I don't know. I don't think there's too much left about that episode. Like I said, it was fun to watch, but really not a lot to talk about. You know what I mean? That was my kind of take on it. But what do you think, Micah?
No, I think you're 100% right. Maybe 98% right. I just like, no, yeah, but it was very much. It's like they wanted to cover those things in the first 2 episodes, but definitely it was like friends just shooting the shit at a campfire. Like, yeah, man, this was fun, and what we're pulling out of it is basically things that we didn't previously know, about the character development or, as such, but it was just very much them like appreciating each other. And it was good, I think, to see, especially because you have that behind the scenes. So it kind of gives depth to the actors portraying their roles in the show. And it kind of gives you hope that this will continue longer, kind of, this it's not just that I'm an actor, this is my role, I have to do this and then I'm done. It's like no. I love Star Wars. Prerequisite that you spoke of almost. That is like, I love Star Wars. This is the role I get. This is the opportunity I get. So what do I got to do to execute the shit out of this, to making it as believable and as real as I can, and just getting to see these like-minded folk together and again appreciating that. So the episode's more of an appreciation than we would be able to break it down. So definitely watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of end this whole thing, Filoni and John Favreau were talking about, there's a lot of people in full prosthetics, helmets, gear, all kinds of stuff. But John Favreau says it very poetically, everybody who's in those costumes that has a starring role needs to be an actor. You know what I mean? You can't just throw somebody in there. And so Carl Weathers just kind of, looks at him like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And then that's where the episode ends.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm really enjoying and digging this behind the scenes stuff. So we got directing, we got the legacy, and now we have the actors. Um, can't wait till next Friday to see what they got next for us.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder how long.
Do we know what the next episode's going to be called?
I don't think.
I
So.
don't. I think I can look it up real quick, but let me see.
Or we could just make it a surprise, Tim. Come on now. Where's your sense of
Surprise.
adventure?
Surprise.
Oh, I think it's surprise, motherfucker. Sorry, that's a different show. That's Dexter.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Do we know how many episodes it's supposed to be? Like
8.
It is supposed to be 8? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it'll probably be like special effects or.
That's what I'm thinking.
This one was cast. The next one could be crew.
Mm-hmm.
The people actually that made these sets possible.
Yeah. I think I'd have to look more into it, but
it's a surprise. We'll find out later. Don't ruin it for yourself, Timothy.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
We'll get more of the Mandalorian. All right. So who's going to close it off for us today?
I think I will.
Sweet.
So, again, thank you for watching or listening if you're listening to audio only. This is episode 69 of the Force Choke Podcast. I am Lewis, also here with...
Tim.
Lewis.
I think I called myself Lewis. Did I just call myself
Yeah, you did.
I mean,
Why did you call yourself Lewis?
I was thinking about it as a
Lewis.
joke.
I'm like, hold on, you just called yourself.
Right, so it's kind of like the whole George Lucas and Dave Filoni thing.
Yeah. But I am Micah with Tim and Lewis, and again, this is episode 69. Please sure to follow us on all of the popular social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We usually respond as quick as we can. So if you have any questions, comments, you want to fight me on me having a wrong point, I'll fight back because I care about you for commenting on it. Audio podcasts, if you're listening to this, is obviously usually Apple, iHeartRadio. I think we got Google, Spreaker, and probably venture out a little bit further. But thank you for watching. This is the council signing off and hoping to see you for episode 70.
Later.
Peace.